bloodiest war on American soil. States versus states. Brothers versus brothers. Join hosts Bang and Dang as they take you battle by battle through the most divisive time in American history. Welcome to Battles of the American Civil War.
Welcome back to Battles of the American Civil War, which I was Bang and Dang. We got two battles. The opening battle is we're starting off with for the Sherman's March to the Sea. We got two from there, and then we got two from the Franklin-Nashville campaign as well. Yeah, as we know, everybody in Petersburg and up north with Grant, they're all in winter quarters, so before we get into it, go check out our YouTube. You already know the drill. Links are in the description, all that good stuff. Starting out, well, we got the Battle of Griswoldville, part of the Sherman's March to the Sea. Battle of Columbia, part of the Nashville campaign. Buckhead Creek, we go back to Sherman, and Spring Hill, we end it with that, which is the Nashville one. Starting out, Battle of Griswoldville was the first battle, like I said, of the Sherman's March to the Sea, which fought November 22nd, 1864. A Union Army brigade under Brigadier General Charles Walcott fought three brigades of Georgia militia under Brigadier General Pleasant J. Phillips at Griswoldville, which was an industrial town near Macon, Georgia. And then they continued its march towards Savannah. So we know who won this one. Sherman, victorious in the lengthy Atlanta campaign, had refitted his army and recently departed from Atlanta on a march designed to reach the Atlantic coast at Savannah. The right wing of Sherman's force was the Army of Tennessee, commanded by Major General Oliver Otis Howard.
Look at that shit. Oh, Howard. Well, they encountered the first resistance to its march in Griswoldville. Walcott from the Union was ordered to make a demonstration with his brigade. He had the 2nd Brigade, 1st Division of the 15th Corps, 6 infantry regiments, and 1 artillery battery, which was Battery B. It was the 1st Michigan. He marched towards Macon to ascertain the disposition of enemy troops in that direction. Well, Union cavalry under Brigadier General Hugh Judson Kilpatrick. He struck Griswoldville on the 21st of November, capturing a train of 13 cars loaded with military supplies.
Oh, shit.
And burning the station and some factory buildings as well.
All right. Early November 22nd, a detachment of Confederate cavalry under Major General Joseph Wheeler attacked the 9th Pennsylvania Cavalry on the Gordon Road, killing 1 man, wounding 2, and capturing 18. The 9th then charged the Confederates and drove them back nearly a mile across a creek, where the enemy was found in force, posted in order of battle. Uh-oh. The Confederates advanced and drove in the Union skirmishers, but the 9th Pennsylvania and 5th Kentucky Cavalry made a saber charge that forced the Confederates to retire to their works.
Oh, shit.
At this point, Walcott's infantry battery brigade and artillery battery joined the cavalry.
Walcott, he threw out a strong skirmish line that drove the old Rebs back through Griswoldville, after which, by orders of Division Commander Brigadier General Charles R. Woods, he fell back to Duncan Farm and took up a position on the edge of the woods with an open field in front and his flanks protected by a swamp.
Look at that. And his back protected by the woods. Well, they can always run in there if they need to.
Right. Here he threw up a barricade of rails and logs, and a battery of artillery was also brought up. About 2 p.m., 3 brigades of Georgia militia under the command of Brigadier General Pleasant Phillips, they attacked. The Georgia militia had been ordered from Macon to Augusta, thinking the latter was Sherman's next objective, and only accidentally collided with Walcott's force.
Oh, wow. The militia advanced into 3 compact lines, but were met by a shower of canister.
Uh-oh.
They succeeded, however, in reaching a ravine about 75 yards from Walcott's works, where they reformed their lines, and from which they made 3 desperate charges on the Federal position, which were all repulsed with heavy losses.
Ooh.
The militia then tried to turn the Federal flanks, but finding these well protected by cavalry, retired to the ravine, remained there until dark, and then withdrew from the field.
Jeez.
General Walcott was wounded early in the engagement, and brigade command fell to Colonel Robert Francis Catterson of the 97th Regiment Indiana Infantry.
Look at you, Catterson. Next in line, baby.
Right.
Next man up. Union losses, 13 killed, 79 wounded, 2 missing. The old Rebs, they lost an estimated 51 dead, 472 wounded, 600 captured. General William Tecumseh Sherman's march to the sea continued. After this very civil war, this industrial community of Griswoldville, a source for Confederate military supplies during the war, never rebuilt again. American Field Battle Trust and its partners saved a 17-acre tract of the battlefield on Baker Road near Little Sandy Creek. It is managed by Georgia State Parks, a roadside monument And interpretive wayside markers are at this very site on Baker Road near the intersection with Griswoldville Road.
Well, moves us on to the Franklin-Nashville campaign, the Battle of Columbia, which was a series of military actions that took place the 24th through the 29th of November in Maury County, Tennessee. Following his defeat in the Atlanta campaign, we know that Hood had hoped to lure Major General William Sherman into battle by disrupting the supply lines from Chattanooga to Atlanta. After a brief period in which he pursued Hood, Sherman then elected to go conduct his march to the sea. He left those forces in command of... He left forces under the command of Major General George H. Thomas, the commander of the Army of the Cumberland, to defend Tennessee and defeat Hood, principally the 4th Corps from the Army of Chamberlain, which was commanded by Major General David Stanley, and the 23rd Corps from the Army of the Ohio, commanded by Major General John Schofield.
Look at that shit.
Oh, Johnny, I ain't seen him in a minute.
Well, the Rebs' General Hood moved through northern Alabama and his corps under Lieutenant General Stephen Lee. They crossed the Tennessee River at Florence from October 30th to the 2nd of November, with the remainder of his army encamped south of the river at Tuscumbia. He waited there for almost 3 weeks while his commissary officers attempted to provide 20 days' supply of rations for the upcoming campaign. This was a difficult assignment because the supply line was tenuous, requiring transport on 2 railroads, followed by 15 miles on poor roads to Tuscumbia, using wagons pulled by undernourished horses and oxen.
Yeah, they're hurting.
Yeah, they're bad.
Hood also wanted to wait for the arrival of Nathan Bedford Forrest, who was engaged in a cavalry raid against Thomas's supply lines, which was highlighted by his victory at the Battle of Johnsonville, which we just had last week.
We did.
November 4th to the 5th. During that first week of November, raids by the 2nd Michigan Cavalry under Brigadier General John T. Croxton damaged the pontoon bridge that Hood had erected across the Tennessee River. After repairs were effected, Hood transferred his headquarters to Florence on the morning of November 13th, and Major General Benjamin Cheatham's corps marched across the river that day with the Army supply trains and cattle following November 14th.
Jeez.
The final corps, under Lieutenant Alexander P. Stewart, crossed the Tennessee on November 20th.
Holy shit.
Wow.
16th November, Hood, he received word that Sherman was about to depart Atlanta for his march to the sea. There was no realistic possibility that Hood could even return to Georgia from his current location to challenge Sherman's advance. So he focused his strategy on an alternative plan. Move north into Tennessee, defeat Thomas's army before it could concentrate, seize the important manufacturing center of Nashville, and then continue north in Kentucky, possibly as far as the Ohio River. From this point on, he could travel east to Virginia to join up with General Lee at Petersburg.
Ooh, that's what he's hoping, huh?
That's a good little plan there.
Well, his theater commander, General P.G.D. Beauregard, urged Hood to take immediate action in an attempt to distract Sherman's advance, emphasizing the importance of moving before Thomas can consolidate his forces.
Right.
Both Sherman and Thomas considered it likely that Hood would follow Sherman through Georgia. Although Thomas received intelligence that Hood was amassing supplies for a movement north, he discounted most of it. Heavy rains during November made the roads almost impassable. As he received reports of Confederate movements 14 miles north of Florence, he was unsure what was going on. What do you think is going on, guy?
Yeah, I still don't know. Lieutenant General John Schofield, he assumed that it was merely a raid by Forrest's cavalry against the railroad between Pulaski and Columbia. By the 21st of November, Thomas had evidence that all 3 of Hood's corps were in motion, and he directed Schofield to withdraw gradually to the north to protect Columbia before Hood could seize it.
Oh, look at that.
Old Schofield, who arrived at Pulaski on the night of the 13th of November and assumed command of all forces, including the 4th Corps.
All right.
Thomas, he remained concerned that 10,000 troops from the 16th Corps, commanded by Major General Andrew Smith, had not even arrived as promised from Missouri. He's like, oh, shit.
Oh, shit. Hood's headquarters departed Florence at 10 a.m. November 21st, accompanied by Cheatham's corps towards Waynesboro, which they reached November 23rd. Army marched in 3 columns with Cheatham on the left, Lee in the center, Stephen D. Lee, right, and Stewart on the right, all screened by Forrest's cavalry. Hood's plan was to consolidate his army at Mount Pleasant and from there move to the east to cut off Schofield before he could reach the Columbia and Duck River. Before he could reach Columbia and the Duck River. The rapid force march 70 miles north was under miserable conditions, with freezing winds and sleet, which made progress difficult for the underfed and underclothed army. Nevertheless, Hood's men were in good spirits as they returned to Tennessee. They're like, yeah, all right, we're coming back to Tennessee.
Right. Because of Forrest's relentless screening, Schofield had no idea where the old Rebs' army was headed. The aggressive force.
I don't
all right?
understand how that's possible.
You gotta have
dude.
some scouts somewhere that can get through somewhere, right?
There's tens of thousands of men.
It's insane.
Even if
Right.
the cavalry's screening them, you telling me somebody can't see a 6-mile long army?
Well, apparently not. The aggressive force had a considerable advantage over his Union cavalry opponents, commanded by Major General James Wilson. Wilson had arrived from the Eastern Theater in late October to reorganize and command Thomas's cavalry, but he possessed only 4,300 horsemen,
There's a lot.
scattered around the theater in numerous small units, compared to 10,000 men unified under Forrest.
Okay.
Yeah. The old Confederate cavalry advanced to Mount Pleasant by the 23rd of November. Croxton's brigade was hopelessly outnumbered against Forrest, so Thomas reinforced him with a division under Brigadier General Edward Hatch and a brigade under Colonel Horace Capron.
All right. Force kept up the pressure on November 23rd. Heavy skirmishing occurred from Henryville to the outskirts of Mount Pleasant. At Falch Springs, near the present day of Summertown, that evening, the Confederate cavalrymen raided one of Capron's encampments, throwing them into chaos and capturing about 50 prisoners. Over 50 prisoners.
Wow.
Forrest came close to becoming a casualty as he mistakenly rode into a small group of Federals.
These idiots.
One of his staff officers, Major John P. Strange, deflected the arm of a Union soldier who was aiming his pistol directly at Forrest's chest at close range, and the bullet narrowly missed.
Holy shit.
Survivors from Capron's brigade fled toward Columbia. How the hell did he get that close? And not notice that the dude's pointing a gun at him right in his chest, first of all. Wow. Holy hell.
This happens a lot with these guys.
Yeah.
Insanity. To the very east, Forrest's division under Brigadier General Abraham Buford and William H. Jackson, they forced Hatch's division out of Lawrenceburg and drove them back toward Pulaski. Early November 24th, Schofield began marching his 2 infantry corps north to Columbia. Forrest, he pursued aggressively with the division of Brigadier General James Chalmers, who occupied Mount Pleasant, and hit Capron's men repeatedly as he forced them north. Capron's brigade was reduced from 1,200 to 800 men during the retreat to Columbia.
Damn. Buford and Jackson drove Hatch north towards Linville and captured a number of prisoners, but the Confederate cavalry was unable to prevent the Northern infantry from reaching Columbia. The 5,000-man division of Brigadier General Jacob D. Cox reached Columbia only a few hours before Forrest's men could seize the river crossings, and Stanley's corps completed a 30-mile march from Pulaski to reinforce them. Together, they began constructing an arc of trenches just south of the town. Said, "Come and take it, baby."
Oh, shit. Here we go. Morning of 24th of November, Forrest's cavalry drove Capron's men through Cox's line south of Columbia. They began probing attacks in an attempt to break through. The line straddled the Mount Pleasant Pike, present-day United States Route 43, just north of Bigby Creek, and then continued eastward across the Pulaski Pike into the town. Curving northward toward the river, by the 25th of November, this line was supplemented with an interior line that roughly encompassed the entire residential area of Columbia. Oh, shit.
Oh. The Confederates bombarded the lines with artillery, and a number of skirmishes occurred, but it became apparent to the Union defenders that only a single infantry division with some dismounted cavalry were participating in the attacks, and that Hood was merely demonstrating, intending to cross the Duck River either upstream or downstream, and cut off the Union force from Thomas, who was assembling the remainder of his force in Nashville. Oh, see? He's trying to pull a fast one over on you guys.
Morning of the 26th of November, Schofield received an order from Thomas to hold the north bank of the Duck River until reinforcements under A.J. Smith could arrive from Nashville. Schofield planned to move his trains during the day and his infantry at night, using a railroad bridge and a recently installed pontoon bridge. But heavy rains once again that day made approaches to the bridge impassable. Shitty-ass roads. That evening, the bulk of the Army of Tennessee reached the fortifications south of Columbia.
November 28th, force crossed the river east of town against little resistance from the Union cavalry. The Southern cavalrymen had deceived Wilson and drawn his force to the northeast and away from that action. At the same time, Hood assigned the bulk of Lee's corps and almost all of his artillery to remain at Columbia and led Schofield to believe that he was planning a major attack against the town. Instead, he marched Cheatham's and Stewart's corps across the Duck River on a pontoon bridge assembled at Davis's Ford.
Oh.
How are you guys falling for this?
Well, no battles were ever even officially recorded at the Battle of Columbia. Was it even a battle? It was like a skirmish. Not even that. Which consisted primarily of demonstrations, artillery fire, and almost unopposed maneuvers. Hood's army turned Schofield at Columbia and proceeded north toward Spring Hill, in an attempt to isolate the Union force and destroy it once and for all.
Which we'll finish out that episode with this episode with that very battle. That'll bring us to our next Sherman March to the Sea battle, Battle of Buckhead Creek, or the Battle of Reynolds Plantation, which is the second battle of the March to the Sea, which was fought November 28th. On November 26th, Wheeler caught up with the two lagging Union regiments after they're already done with the Battle of Griswoldville, and chased them to the larger force and prevented Kilpatrick from destroying the Briar Creek trestle. Kilpatrick instead destroyed a mile of track in the area. Okay. When Kilpatrick discovered that the Union prisoners at Camp Lawton had been taken to other unknown sites, he began to move southwest to join up with Major General William T. Sherman's headquarters. He said, "Let's go, boys."
Let's roll. Kilpatrick's men, they encamped near Buckhead Creek on the night of the 27th of November. Wheeler came along the next morning, almost captured Kilpatrick, and pursued him and his men to Buckhead Creek. As Kilpatrick's main force crossed the creek, the 5th Ohio Cavalry Regiment under Colonel Thomas Heath, supported by 2 artillery pieces, fought a rear guard action from behind a barricade of rails, severely punishing Wheeler's troopers with canister fire and then burned the bridge behind them.
Oh, nice. Well, Wheeler soon crossed and followed, but a Union bridge behind barricades at Reynolds' plantation halted the rebels' drive, eventually forcing them to retire. Kilpatrick rode on to rejoin Sherman at Louisville, Georgia. Which I believe is probably our next battle on that. Union casualties reported at 46. Kilpatrick claimed and estimated that 600 Confederate casualties, but Wheeler reported approximately 70, which included Brigadier General Felix Robertson, who's severely wounded in the elbow.
Oh, he's losing that arm. Moving on, last battle of the day. Battle of Spring Hill, November 29th, 1864. Spring Hill, Tennessee, is part of the Franklin-Nashville campaign, which we said earlier. 29th November, Hood had sent Cheatham and Stewart's Corps on a flanking march north, crossing the Duck River at Davis's Ford, east of Columbia, while 2 other divisions of Lee's Corps and most of the Army's artillery remained on the southern bank to deceive Schofield into thinking a general assault was planned against Columbia.
Yep.
Hood, riding near the head of the column with Cheatham's Corps, planned to interpose his army between Schofield and Thomas, hoping to defeat Schofield as the Federales retreated north from the Columbia.
Stewart's Corps followed Cheatham, and they were followed by the division of Major General Edward Allegheny Johnson, which was Lee's Corps. The rest of Lee's Corps remained south of Columbia, demonstrating with artillery fire against Schofield's men north of the Duck. Cavalry skirmishing between Brigadier General James H. Wilson's Union cavalry and Forrest's Confederate troopers continued throughout the day as the Confederates advanced. Forrest's wide turn and movement with 4,000 troopers had forced Wilson north to Hurt's Corner, preventing the Union horsemen from interfering with Hood's infantry advance. Look at that.
10 a.m., 29th of November. Forrest ordered his men to turn west toward Spring Hill. Wilson, he sent multiple messages to Schofield warning of Hood's advance, but it was not until dawn on the 29th that Schofield believed the reports.
Why have people that are doing your scouting and like giving you intel and you don't fucking believe them in the first place?
He's finally understanding the deception represented by Lee's artillery bombardment, and he finally realized the predicament he was in. He's like, "Oh shit, what a predicament! What a predicament!"
Jeez.
Wow. He sent Stanley north with the 4th Corps Division under Brigadier General Nathan Kimball, the remainder Wagner's division, and the bulk of the Federal Reserve Artillery. Their mission was to protect the trains, but also hold the crossroads at Spring Hill to allow the entire army to withdraw safely to Franklin if need be.
Well, Forrest's cavalrymen approached Spring Hill on the Mount Carmel Road and at about 11:30 a.m. ran into pickets from the 4th Corps. Stanley had moved north rapidly and formed up position with Wagner's division that protected the village of Spring Hill on 3 sides. Northwest of the village, the lines of Colonel Emerson Opdyke's brigade protected the enormous supply trains, Brigadier General Luther Bradley's brigade. Lane's brigade rushed forward and pushed back the dismounted cavalrymen, primarily Brigadier General Frank C. Armstrong's Mississippi Brigade.
Here we go. Forrest received a message from Hood to hold the position at all hazards.
Stand back and stand by.
He said, "You hold that position until the infantry could arrive." Major General Patrick Claiborne's division of Cheatham's Corps, they arrived mid-afternoon on Forrest's left. The cavalrymen, low on ammo, pulled out of line and moved north to be ready to cover a further advance of Hood's army, or to block Schofield's withdrawal.
Force's men moved south he directed the brigade of Brigadier General Tyree Bell of Chalmers' division to drive off what he thought was a small force of cavalry from the knoll south of McCutcheon's Creek. They were actually engaging with Bradley's brigade, which drove them back immediately with heavy artillery support.
Ooh-wee.
The Chasen Forrest remarked, "They was in there, sure enough, wasn't they, Chalmers?" The first command miscommunication of the battle took place upon Hood's arrival as he established his headquarters at the Absalom Thompson House, Oak Lawn.
Okay.
The Confederates have been miscommunicating a lot more than the Union has lately.
Right, it's crazy. Cheatham, he had ordered his division under Major General William Bate to move against Spring Hill in concert with Claiborne, forming up on the Irishmen's left. Hood, he then personally ordered Bate to move towards to the Columbia Pike and sweep toward Columbia. Neither Bate nor Hood bothered to inform Cheatham of this change in orders. Bate's men advanced about 3,000 yards in battle formation before they reached the pike, a journey taken over 2 hours too long.
About 5:30 p.m., his lead element, sharpshooters under Major Thomas Caswell, fired on a Federal column approaching from their left, which was Major General Thomas Ruger's division of the 23rd Corps.
It's just about dark.
Which was also the vanguard of Schofield's main body. Yeah, about then, yeah. But before the two divisions could engage in battle, an officer from Cheatham's staff arrived to insist that Bate follow Cheatham's original orders and join Claiborne's attack. Late that night, Bate reported the contact with Federal column, but Cheatham discounted the importance of the encounter.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, back in Columbia, Schofield, he became convinced at about 3 p.m. that the old Rebs would not even attack him there. And at 3:30 p.m., he joined 2 brigades from Ruger's division on the march to Spring Hill. He ordered his remaining force to remain until dark, and then join him on the march north. As soon as Schofield departed, Stephen D. Lee coincidentally began an attack against a Union position. Oh, wow. Although he had considerable difficulty deploying pontoon bridges for the river crossing, by the time the bulk of his 2 divisions were able to cross, the senior Union commander left behind at Columbia, Brigadier General Jacob Cox. He began his withdrawal, and the final troops departed to Franklin Pike by 10 p.m., so that was all for naught.
Claiborne's 3,000 men began an in-echelon attack against Bradley's brigade at about 4 p.m. From the right to his left, his brigades were led by Brigadier Generals Mark P. Lowry, Daniel Gobin, and Hiram Granberry. Bell's cavalry brigade supported on the right, although they remained low on ammo and had little effect in the fight. You got to get your cavalry some ammo, guys.
Right.
Whereas Cheatham was expecting Claiborne to drive north into Spring Hill, Hood's intention was to use this formation to sweep toward the turnpike and wheel left to intercept Schofield's arriving units, but he apparently had not observed the location of the Union position south of the town.
Oh, of course, why would you not? Why would you? The stair-step echelon formation was therefore less effective against Bradley's fortified position on their right and the front, allowing only Lowry's brigade to engage them initially. After Lowry requested assistance, Claiborne personally led Govin's Arkansas brigade forward, wheeling them into northern alignment against Bradley's right flank. The attack by Govin and Lowry outflanked Bradley, and his men fled in disorder. Claiborne's 2 brigades chased them vigorously, and they were stopped short of the turnpike only by heavy fire from the 4th Corps artillery. That artillery from, I'll tell you what, that was placed there earlier by Stanley on a knoll north of the creek.
Sure was. Well, by this time, Cheatham's division under Major General John C. Brown, which was Cheatham's own division before he assumed Corps command, they had crossed the Rutherford Creek and was moved into position by Cheatham for another attack on Spring Hill, this time on Claiborne's right.
Okay.
In the gathering darkness, the sounds of Brown's guns would be the signal for Claiborne's men to resume their attack. Brown did not attack.
Oh.
However.
All right. His brigade commander on the right, Brigadier General Otho Strahl, reported that there were Union troops in position on his right flank and in front, and that Forrest's cavalrymen promised to protect his right flank. They did not even seem to be present. Where were they? Census Brigade under Brigadier General States Right Gist had not yet arrived to join the attack. Brown, he's like, you know what? I'm just going to consult with the Corps commander before proceeding.
Cheatham was at that time attempting to find Bate and steer him into the combined attack. Brown sent 2 staff officers to find Cheatham and halted his troops while he awaited a decision. By the time Cheatham and Brown were able to speak at around 6:15 p.m., The battlefield was in total darkness.
You sorry bastards.
And the two officers decided that an assault conducted then, without knowing the condition of the right flank, might be a disaster.
Obviously.
Cheatham rode off to Hood's headquarters to consult with the Army commander. What do we do? Well, obviously, fucking retire for the night.
He's like, you guys are dumb.
Haven't you guys learned from everybody else you got wounded by marching in the dark?
Right.
Or doing shit in the dark?
Jeez. When Cheatham arrived at Hood's headquarters, he was furious that the attack had not proceeded as he intended to, and that the pike was still open. I bet he was pissed. Poor Cheatham. Cheatham said that he needed assistance from Stewart to protect his right flank, so Hood dispatched a staff officer to find Stewart. Having been up since 3 a.m., Hood was by this time very fatigued. He indulged in a large dinner at Oaklawn, which included considerable toasting of drinks. He went to bed about 9 p.m., confident that whatever setbacks his army had suffered during the day, they would be able to correct them in the morning, and then they'll bag Schofield once and for all.
Well, earlier in the afternoon, though, Hood had brought up Stewart's corps across Rutherford Creek and directed him to move north of Spring Hill and cut off the Federal column. After taking a wrong turn, Stewart ended up at Forrest's headquarters at the Caldwell House. There, he conferred with Forrest about the positions of the Army when suddenly one of Cheatham's staff officers arrived and directed in Hood's name that Stewart's corps moved to support Brown's attack. Why didn't that happen?
Right, you dumb bastards. After Stewart's column retraced its route, he arrived at Brown's command post, but he was very confused about the apparent disagreement in orders he was receiving. So he traveled back to Hood's headquarters for clarification. Wow. He informed Hood that because his men were tired and he had been on the move since daylight, it was now 11 p.m., he had ordered them to settle down for the night. Hood accepted the situation and told Stewart to head in the direction of Franklin in the morning after the men had rested.
The Battle of
Hood's not having a good day.
He's not. The Battle of Spring Hill was a minor affair in terms of casualties, which the Union had about 350, 500 for the Confederates. But the result of miscommunication and simply bad military management was that during the night of all Schofield's command, including Cox, they were allowed to pass from Columbia through Spring Hill while the Confederate commanders slept.
Oh, my.
The passage of the Army did not go unnoticed by some of the soldiers, but no concerted effort was made to block the pike.
They're like,
well, whatever, dude. You got the fucking commanders in there having, steak and baked potatoes and shit, and we're over here eating hardtack. Fuck you. I'm not telling you what's going on.
Right. The old rebel Brigadier General Lawrence Ross's cavalry, they attempted to block the passage of the supply trains north of Spring Hill at Thompson Station, but an accompanying Federal infantry, they drove them off. A private soldier woke up the commanding general at 2 a.m. and reported that he saw a Union column moving north, but Hood did nothing beyond sending a dispatch to Cheatham to fire on passing traffic. If you see him, fire him, I guess.
By 6 a.m., November 30th, all of Schofield's army was well north of Spring Hill, and its vanguard had reached Franklin.
You sorry fucks.
Where it began to build breastworks south of town.
Wow.
In the morning, Hood discovered Schofield's escape, and after an angry conference with his subordinate commanders, in which he blamed all of everybody but himself for the failure, he ordered his army to resume in its pursuit, setting up the disastrous, for the Confederates, Battle of Franklin that afternoon.
These guys are behind, and oh my goodness.
Which that'll be in 2 weeks. We'll have that episode.
Wow. Confederates are just done.
They're losing it, man. They're losing it.
Spring Hill had been arguably Hood's best chance to isolate and defeat the Union Army. Thomas L. Connolly, historian of the Army of Tennessee, he argues that the importance of Spring Hill has been overblown and that Schofield had 3 alternative routes to enter Franklin or Nashville, which he probably did.
Fuck you, Connolly.
Recriminations for the lost opportunity soon began flying. Rumors circulated about Brown being drunk, but they were never substantiated, and he was later elected governor of Tennessee.
Fuck it, look at him.
Hood, he believed that Cheatham was most responsible, although he also had criticism for 2 of Cheatham's division commanders, Claiborne and Brown.
Oh, jeez. How about you?
Right.
His official report said Major General Cheatham was ordered to attack the enemy at once vigorously and get possession of the pike, and, although these orders were frequently and earnestly repeated, he made but a feeble and partial attack, failing to reach the point indicated.
Wow.
Historians Thomas L. Connolly, Eric Jacobson, and Wiley Sword have each assigned blame to both Hood and Cheatham. Oh, good for you guys.
A variety of theories about Hood's personal failures have occupied historians for years. One of the more persistent is that General was debilitated from ingesting laudanum in the evening, attempting to relieve the pain and irritation to his amputated leg by the long, damp ride over rough roads that very day. I mean, I bet that shit did hurt.
I bet.
Eric Jacobson's book, The Calls and For Country. He lists that many authors who have supported this story, but he states that there is no evidence that Hood even took any sort of drugs or even alcohol at Spring Hill.
Portions of landscape have been altered, but most essential features remain on this battlefield.
Okay.
Industrial and residential development and associated road and communication infrastructure are rapidly overtaking the historic battlefield, though. Protected lands include Rippavilla, Inc., which is 98 acres. Civil War Preservation Trust, which is 70 acres. Tennessee Land Trust, 82 acres. And Maury County Parks and Recreation Department, which is 20 acres.
Oh, nice.
The Civil War Preservation Trust was renamed the Civil War Trust in 2011 and became the American Battlefield Trust, a division of it, obviously. The trust and its partners have acquired and preserved a total of 195 acres of the battlefield in 3 transactions since 1996. It's just always so baffling to me that it took them over 150-something years to get any of these preserved in history.
Right.
I don't understand that at all.
It's insanity.
But whatever.
What's even more insanity is the incompetence. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
We've seen some from the Union on this one, but not nearly as bad as Hood and Cheatham.
Hood goes on to get military bases named after him and shit. Like, dude, what are you doing? Suck, dude. You suck. You all suck.
They do. And Lee's just like not giving a care.
He don't give a care. I don't give a care.
I don't give a care.
That's going to do it for us with the Battle of Griswoldville, the Battle of Columbia, the Battle of Buckhead Creek, Battle of Spring Hill next week. I think we're only going to have 2 battles, which is going to be the Sand Creek Massacre we'll start out with, which we've talked about a little bit before. A bunch of Indians get massacred. Then we'll have the small little Battle of Honey Hill to close that one out, because our very next episode after that is going to be the big boy Battle of Franklin.
Ooh.
So, we got that to look forward to. And then we only got, 10 more battles to close out 1864, and then it's over with for sure. Yeah. Battle of Nashville being our other big one to round out the year. And, pretty much got just Tennessee. Well, Sherman's march to the sea pretty much is all we got left here, and then Virginia picks it up again in December for some reason.
All right.
Join us next week for those 2 battles, plus a massacre, not a battle. Can't be a battle if nobody's fighting back, you know?
Right.
In the Colorado territory. So, we'll see you then. Remember, links and stuff in the description. Go check us out, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. We'll see you next week for more Battles of the American Civil War. We are the Mother Michiganders.
Bang, bang.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe so you never miss out on new episodes of Outlaws and Gunslingers or Battles of the American Civil War, right here on the Bang Dang Network. And don't forget to check out those playlists.